All right, today we are diving into some of the most famous and maybe most misunderstood words in all of history. What if the way we've always heard them is completely wrong? We're going to take a closer look at nonviolent resistance as taught by Jesus, and, well, you might find it's actually a radical playbook for confronting power.
So let's jump right in with the big one. You know the one, turn the other cheek. For centuries, most of us have heard this as a call to be passive, to just take whatever abuse is thrown at you. But what if it's something else entirely? What if it's actually a genius-level tactic for confronting power head-on?
And that's really the heart of it. These teachings, when you dig into them, aren't a blueprint for being a doormat. Not at all. They're a playbook for completely flipping the script on an oppressor, using their own power and expectations against them.
So what does this kind of radical rereading actually look like? Well, it reveals a pretty incredible playbook for something called peaceful subversion.
Peaceful subversion. What exactly is that? Think of it as a creative, nonviolent way to resist. The goal isn't to run away, and it's not to fight back with the same kind of violence. It's a third way, a strategy designed to expose evil for what it is and force an aggressor to actually look at what they're doing, all while you assert your own dignity.
So how does this actually work in the real world? Let's break down 3 specific tactics right from the Sermon on the Mount. These are 3 totally unexpected moves to reclaim your power.
And that brings us right back to tactic number 1, turn the other cheek. It's the most famous and maybe, just maybe, the most deeply misunderstood of them all.
So the common view is pretty simple. Passively accept humiliation. But the subversive act is something else. It's a powerful demand to be treated as an equal. Now you're probably thinking, how on earth does that work?
Okay, this is where the cultural context is everything. Jesus is super specific. He says, being struck on the right cheek. Now think about it. For a right-handed person to hit your right cheek, they have to use a backhand. And that wasn't just a slap. It was a public gesture of dominance, something a master would do to a servant. But if you then turn your left cheek, you put them in a bind. To hit you now, they have to use an open palm or a closed fist, a strike between equals. You see what happened? You haven't invited another insult. You've non-violently insisted on your equal humanity and completely denied them the power to humiliate you.
And this same idea, this flipping the script, applies perfectly to our second tactic, give your cloak too. Here, we're shifting from social power to economic exploitation.
Picture this. You're dirt poor. A creditor takes you to court and sues you for your inner tunic, literally the shirt off your back. Jesus' advice? Give him your outer cloak too. Now that sounds insane, right? But it kicks off this incredible chain of shame. If you give up both garments, you're left naked. But, and this is the key, in that culture, public nakedness brought shame on the person who caused it. So in one bold theatrical move, you have exposed the creditor's predatory greed for everyone to see. You've turned his legal win into his public humiliation.
And that brings us to our third tactic. And this one tackles the power of the state, military and political oppression. Go the second mile.
Again, the common view is just, be nice, do more than you're asked. But the subversive act is so much cooler. It's about seizing the initiative right from your oppressor. It is a total power move.
To get this one, you have to understand a little bit of Roman law. A Roman soldier could legally force a civilian to carry his pack for exactly 1 mile. But, and this is crucial, not an inch further. The military code forbade it, probably to keep the locals from getting too angry and starting a riot. So when that mile is up and the soldier goes to take his pack back, you voluntarily offer to carry it a second mile. Suddenly, the soldier is completely thrown off balance. You've just turned his act of forced labor into your act of free choice. And now he's the one in a bind, because he's at risk of being disciplined for breaking his own military rules. You've taken all the power in this situation.
Okay, so we've seen these incredible one-on-one tactics. But this strategy also scales up. It can move from just asserting your personal dignity to launching a full-on public protest that challenges an entire system.
And there is no better example of this than the cleansing of the temple. Jesus' words here were just scathing. You have made it a den of thieves. But this was not some random outburst of anger.
No, it was a very specific indictment of systemic injustice. The marketplace in the temple was ripping off poor worshippers with insane prices for the sacrifices they were required to make. It was also physically blocking the only part of the temple where non-Jews could come to worship. It was, in short, reducing religion to a profit-making scheme for the rich and powerful.
So it's so important to see this event for what it was.
It wasn't just a fit of anger. It was a calculated, prophetic statement. It was a kind of political theater designed to shine a huge spotlight on a corrupt and unjust system.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. These tactics, turning the cheek, giving the cloak, going the second mile, they all point to this powerful idea that some scholars call the third way.
I mean, think about it. When we're faced with injustice, there are usually two options on the table: violent rebellion or passive submission. But violence often just ends up mirroring the very evil you're fighting. And passivity, well, that just lets the injustice continue. This third way, this idea of creative, nonviolent resistance, it carves out a whole new path forward. And the core strategy is this: you overcome evil not by destroying the evildoer, but by exposing the injustice for everyone to see, by awakening the conscience of both the oppressor and the community around them. The goal is to win them over, not wipe them out.
It's such a challenging and powerful idea, isn't it? It completely reframes some of history's most famous teachings. They're not a call for us to be doormats, but a courageous and creative strategy for real change. And that leaves us with one last question to think about. In our world today, with all of its own complicated injustices, where could this third way be most powerful?